Hey gang, so today we're looking at something that I bought from a friend of mine that I have been looking at for a while, but frankly, I've been waiting for the dust to settle a little bit because the excitement around these things has been nuts. This is the Plain Jane Hex on Hex in full zirconium. Now there's no point in me listing the price because the minute they would come off of the site, people go nuts for them. The prices jump up all over the place. I think they've settled now a little bit, so if you're looking for a Maglab and you're on like one of the used sites, now's probably a pretty good time to start looking around for one. Now I got this off of a friend of mine, Nicole Annette Fraley, and I gotta say, I'm not disappointed. But you know what? I'm not gonna get too far into it. We're gonna wait. You're gonna have a look at it under the camera. All right, it's the Plain Jane by Maglabs. Let's go. Okay, here we have the Plain Jane Maglabs in it's Hex on Hex, full Zirc. Full Zirc, I mean, other than the plates, of course. And blue and silver finish with the Swiss style stainless steel plates and blue titanium screws. Okay, let's get rid of that. So, like a lot of you, I have been kind of monitoring the Maglabs releases since they started, and a couple of them that come out they're beautiful, gorgeous, and people kind of losing their minds. There was this huge frenzy at one point where people were offering, you know, up to $1,000 for a particular model that had been sold. That obviously calms down after a while, so I wanted to wait for things to calm down before I got my hands on one. Now, one of the things that I really liked about this is, for one, obviously the opportunity to get it in a deal with a friend. But also this is a very, very flat, very thin, flat slider. And it kind of reminded me of a little bit of Compuform, actually. And that's what kind of drew me to this style of slider. I love a really, really flat slider as long as there's grip. And when I got it, it looked great. Very, very cool. Feels really nice. It is blue. It's got this kind of blue iridescent sort of look to it. And what I found was that it was super hard to slide. This thing was stuck together so tough. And for me, at least, the magnets were just really, really strong on it. And maybe that's just because of the thinness. But immediately I had to modify the magnets because this is all one strength. I believe they're all N52s. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, please. But I know these are the stronger strength magnets, and they're not a hybrid setup of magnet. They are all one strength. So very, very strong. So I'm going to show you in a second what I did. This is not a secret. A lot of people do this. I just found that it works every single time. So we'll get to that in a second. But in the meantime, let's look at the sound. Now, normally, I love crunchy sliders. In this case, though, I kind of wanted it quiet. I really like the little snap to it. Very snappy, very smooth. Now, I am not, I am not an expert laddering guy at all. I see so many people who just do such a better job than I do. One guy I love watching is actually Nick O'Rourke. He does this really great, he does these little sort of short videos, and he's always just kind of laddering, and the guy can just kind of race all over, as I'm sure many others can. Now, scratches, I mean, sure, there are scratches on here. These are stainless steel plates. They do get scratched up. I gotta say, super snappy. Like really, the flow of this is really, really nice. But again, I found it really only does this once you modify the magnets inside, which I'll show you in a second. Very, very simple trick. I mean, not even really a trick, just the way you kind of set it up. So it's I mean, great little slider, other than the fact that these edges are kind of sharp. I would have liked to have seen that a little rounded. Would have been a little nice. It does kind of dig a bit when I'm laddering. Again, that's just me. That's just how I hold it, I'm sure. But it is something that, you know, if I'm gonna find something here that, you know, these aren't perfect, right? Like no fidget's perfect. Well, I shouldn't say that. But a lot of them aren't. And in this case, this one is not. It's a great slider, feels really nice. The pattern's awesome, but it's sharp. And so what happens is when you push, you just kind of get this digging into your fingers. All right, let's take this apart. I'm only going to take apart one side because I've done the same modification on both sides. So let's get our handy plate out here. And we'll just take out these blue titanium screws. I mean, it is funny to me that the screw color is a feature, because who's looking at the screws? You know, I mean, it's fine, it's cool, but I wouldn't really like that. Doesn't attract me to the slider. Like, I don't find that that's a detail that's necessary, at least for me to buy. Okay, let's take this off. Now, here's one thing a little tricky sometimes is it is hard to grip the lid. Okay, so what we have here I'm just going to take these out because they're currently stuck in here. You can see rings, right? So normally the way this goes is the magnets go in and the rings sort of sit between the lid and the magnet. And that kind of, that takes away all the room inside. What it does is it also puts the magnet straight up against the plate. If you take out all the rings, these magnets will hop up and down. And that's what gives us the crunchy sound. So here's an example of crunchy. And that crunchy sound is just from the magnets being able to move around a little bit inside the housing here. So in this case, what I've done is taken the middle magnets, the rings, and I've actually put the rings down first. Now let's see if I can get one of these off without, there we go. That wasn't too hard, was it? So you can see here, I've actually taken, now here, this might get a little confusing, so let me just put these rings back, these other rings back where they belong. So I'm going to take these 4 rings on the corners, and I am going to put them into the lid corners. And what this will do is this forces the corner magnets onto the sort of like onto the this part of the plate, so that they're right up against the plate, which makes that connection stronger because both sets of magnets and both plates are closer to each other. Then what I've done is I have placed the middle rings inside the holes first, and then I've put the magnets on top. So what that does is that if I turn this way, you can actually see that the middle magnets are raised, meaning they are separated from the middle. There's a bit more space because the ring is now sitting here. The ring is sitting on the inside. So that forces the magnets out a little bit. So when you double that up on both sides, you actually get a larger distance between these middle magnets, which weakens the strength. Now, what's a little tricky with this one is we don't have really kind of built-in holes. So this gets a little tricky because right now we have, as you see, I've taken one of my magnets out right here. And to show you that inside we have this ring, and actually if I take the ring out as well, so we have this little kind of space for the magnet. If the ring was not there, the magnet could just sit and sort of comfortably, it's got a little area to sit in, so it won't move around. In this case, it gets a little trickier because the ring is taking up, or the little O-ring is taking up that room. So now what happens is we have almost like a flush surface that we have to put the magnet against. And I could sit it in here and let it kind of attract to the metal itself, and that can work. But sometimes it's a little too weak, and this magnet can then start to kind of pull to the other magnets. Now you notice these middle ones are sitting straight, and that's because they're already they're already set in their position. It's this, when you're trying to figure out where these magnets go, you don't really want to take the chance and risk the magnet sliding around, I guess. So what I do is, let's go back to our lid, and I'm just going to tap out the O-rings here. So just for now, we're just taking the O-rings out for now. And I'm going to place this on top. And then with that on top, I'm going to bring in the other half. So now I have the other half connected, which makes it a lot easier to deal with these magnets. So I'm going to make sure my O-ring is in place. Again, also having this opposing pull will immediately tell me where my polarity has to be. So watch as I let go of this magnet. Oh, okay, so there we go. That is a perfect example of showing you how these things get a little unstable when using this method. So, of course, everything locks on beautifully if it's clean, but when we're dealing with an O-ring as a spacer, we now have a much bigger gap, right? Because we have 2 rings worth of gap between these 2 magnets. So it's just something that is a little annoying. And of course, it's going to be more annoying now because I'm trying to show it. This is always the way. And these magnets can slide into each other because, again, remember, they are now sitting basically flush on top of this plate. So there's nothing kind of keeping them in their position. Okay, now one thing I do too is I will sort of put my thumb over the magnets that I don't want to move. And then we got one more. So I have my thumb down on all these 3 because what I'm doing is basically just sort of dropping the magnet in. Oh, and it wants to go to its buddy. Okay. So once all of 4 magnets are sitting and they are in the right place, they're sitting on top of the rings, I will then put this lid back on, and I'm going to put the other O-rings in place in their corners. And then we put it all together. And that is it. Now, what's important to remember here is to not over tighten your screws. Some people just like crank on them, and then of course you strip them. That's it. So overall, this is a really nice little slider. I actually really enjoy it. It might be so far, one of my favorite sliders, not necessarily because it's Maglabs, but the flat. I really do enjoy this flat. And let's just do, you know, for those that are curious about the weight, there you go. Almost 2.2 ounces. Compared to, let's say, another Magnus slider like the Super X and Ultim. So it's a tiny bit heavier, which makes sense. I mean, we're dealing with, you know, all metal instead of metal and Ultim. Okay, gang, so that is the Maglabs Hex on Hex in full, I guess, blue Zerk. Sort of, yeah, it's blue Zerk. All right, thanks for watching.